Yeah.
And then, so, no more 10 a.m. kickoffs. Is it good to have a lie-in, or are we relieved to have or were we, living a bit of the dream, waking up, having a coffee in the morning at 10 a.m?
I'm going to miss it, mate. Like, honestly, it's been ridiculous these last few weeks, just having, it's just been non-stop football all day, and that's finally going to come to an end. I'm going to miss it, mate, definitely.
Good 10 a.m. kickoff yesterday as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, loads of action yesterday. So, and then of course England today, and barring any miracles, they should be going through. So yeah, we'll see how that goes now.
You've got the permutations, haven't you, for tonight?
We do, yeah. They have to avoid a 4-goal defeat to Wales to avoid going out, and obviously Wales also need a draw with Iran and USA. So yeah, barring any miracles, it should be England going through.
Let's hope so. Welcome to World Cup Sera Qatar, a podcast produced and presented by sports journalism students live from our studios in Preston. I'm Jack Goodwin.
And I'm Alex McMonnies, and yesterday was a thrilling day of football with 11 goals in just the first 2 matches, and Portugal and Brazil booking their places in the knockout stages. And of course there was also, looking ahead to today, Southgate's local derby quote. Did you see that, where he said, "We're here and they're there"?
Yeah, I'm not so sure why that question was asked. Why wouldn't it be a local derby? It's a massive game tonight, as you say, and we are going to look back at some of the results yesterday. Brazil winning it in the last 10 minutes, not considered a shot on target yet. And we will be going to our punditry team who are here with us.
I'm Adam Howarth, a first-year sports journalism student and Manchester City fan.
I'm Dan Gallagher, a third-year sports journalist student and also a Man City fan.
I'm Jeremy Takunikelu, second-year sport journalist and PSG fan.
PSG fan, wow. Okay, so we will hear from those in a few minutes, but first we'll be speaking to the Sun's correspondent for Wales, Martin Blackburn, who is in Qatar. Martin, thanks for joining us today.
No problem, guys. Good morning to you.
Morning. And how are we doing, Martin? And how has Qatar been for yourself?
It's been very good, yeah. I'm doing fine. I've been here 2 weeks today and really enjoyed it so far. It's lovely and sunny still. It's much hotter than it usually is at this time of year. So everything's been fine so far, and enjoyed the football too. Although the team that I cover, Wales, have probably not performed quite as they would have hoped. But seen some really good football on the television, and hopefully, if Wales do go out tonight, I might see a little bit live before I head for home next week.
Yeah, and of course, barring any miracles tonight, it does appear that your time will be coming to an end. But
yes.
Of course, looking ahead to the match, Southgate described it as a local derby. What did you make of that quote?
Yeah, that's right. It was asked by a foreign journalist, actually, who perhaps doesn't know his geography that well, about why there was such a sort of rivalry, such needle between the two nations. So he tried to explain that to them, that they were next door to each other, and also used his little sort of similarity to the fact that he lives in Yorkshire, and Yorkshire's there, and then it's the rest of the country next to it as far as Yorkshire people go. So that was quite a nice quote from the manager. And there was also all the talk about the video that Wales made in 2016 about when England got knocked out against Iceland. Wales carried on to the semi-finals, as you guys probably remember, and there was a video leaked of the Wales fans celebrating Iceland's win wildly, and you've got Southgate suggesting that maybe he might use that as a little bit of motivation tonight to fire up his players. So that gives an extra little bit of spice to a game that doesn't usually need much.
And what is the actual mood around the Wales camp with the fans and with the squad heading into the match tonight?
I think it's a little bit mixed, guys. I think there is a sort of an element of just being happy to be here. Of course, it's 64 years since they were last at a World Cup, so not many people will remember anything about that. And they've known since June that they were going to be here. There was great excitement about it. You'd probably say that since the performances in their 2 games so far have been disappointing. That we've seen much better from Wales over the years. Particularly in the big games. they've probably let themselves down a little bit as a team, and also their big players, Bale and Ramsey, UCLan haven't really performed really. So I think, there's probably a feeling that the likelihood is that they're going to go out tonight, but they certainly, they want to make sure that they go out with their heads held high and don't sort of look back with too many regrets. No, you won't get anyone from the Wales camp admitting that they're already out. They'll still hope for a miracle, but I think, as you were saying earlier, guys, I think it's very unlikely that sequence of results is going to happen. So the chances are they'll be heading home later this week, and a lot to think about on the flight home.
And there have, of course, been some critics of the way Rob Page has set up for some of these matches. Are you expecting any changes tonight, and do you think he's under any serious pressure?
Well, he's only just signed a new contract in terms of the pressure earlier this year, and you have to give him credit for getting them to the finals. It was doing it via the playoffs. That was sort of doing it the hard way, if you like. Although the draw that they got to get here with Austria in the semis and Ukraine in the final was both at home was probably quite friendly. But then again, they earned those by doing well in the Nations League. So I think Rob Page has done a very good job up to here. I think probably there has been criticism of the way he's sort of set up in the two games so far. I think people, some people might say that Bale and Ramsey clearly haven't been performing in these two games, but yet they've sort of stuck by them. So he's tried to play with three at the back, and that's not always worked out very well for him. So there might be a change tonight. I think despite UCLan possibly giving Iran their last two goals on Friday, I think he might start tonight. He's a really big player for Wales, so if there's any chance that he can start in the game, then I think they will take it, because they really have nothing to lose now.
And with Wayne Hennessy getting sent off in the last game, do you still trust Danny Ward to kind of do the job between the sticks for Wales?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the interesting thing about Danny Ward is, going into the tournament, he was the most in-form goalkeeper in the Premier League. I think he kept 6 clean sheets out of 8 for Leicester before the World Cup break, and he was in really, really excellent form. So it's again, some people might think that Rob Page made the wrong call. Maybe he was too loyal to Wayne Hennessy. But to be fair to Hennessy, he played really well in both of the playoff games against Austria and Ukraine, as I say. So he showed great loyalty there. But Ward, Ward might have been a little bit disappointed that he wasn't in. Actually, when Hennessy got sent off on Friday, the 2 goals obviously came after Ward was on. I think there was a feeling that maybe he could have got to the first one. It was a really, really well hit shot from outside the box, but he got a good hand on it. So maybe he was still getting himself warm and could possibly have kept that one out. But yeah, as I say, he's a Premier League goalie who's playing regularly in the top flight, so there should be no worries there.
And of course, for Wales to somehow miraculously qualify tonight, they also need the right result in the USA-Iran match. And having watched Wales play both of those teams, how do you see that match going?
Yeah, I mean, I was really impressed with Iran. I think, I obviously watched the game against England on the television, like a lot of people, and I don't think that was really them. I think the goalkeeper going off so early with the injury really sort of shook them up. And also, there's been a suggestion that maybe Carlos Queiroz, made some changes against England because he felt the games against the USA were and Wales were more winnable. That's where they could get the points that they required. So it's certainly a very different very different Iran side against Wales. They fully deserve to win. Certainly, there's no, even the most one-eyed of Welshmen would have said that. But yeah, USA have done okay too. I'm sure you saw the game against England, and I think they were good value for their draw there. And against Wales, they were probably kicking themselves. The USA, they had so much more energy and zip about them in the first half. Perhaps Wales throwing on Kiefer Moore after half time maybe shook them up a little bit. But yeah, they're a decent side. I just wonder about Iran, because they've got the sort of story behind them, where a bit like maybe Denmark in the Euros, after what happened with Eriksson. We've heard all the things about Iran and the rows that Carlos Queiroz has had with his with the journalists, and maybe they've just got that little bit of a story behind them and are gonna sneak through. So, but perfectly poised, really, that one. I think it could go either way, certainly.
And obviously, as you mentioned, this is still a historic campaign for Wales. And after that memorable Euros in 2016 and making the last European Championships in 2020, do you think we're seeing the end of a golden generation with both Gareth Bale and Aaron Ramsey's careers declining? Or do you think the next crop of Wales players will be just as good?
I think that Bale and Ramsey might both carry on, but I think that what Wales will have to do is find a different way to sort of use them. They've got. They've obviously got all the experience and they've provided so many great moments over the years, but both of them are well into their 30s. And I think one of the big problems for Wales here is that, too many of their players haven't been playing regularly at their club sides, So I think to be able to sort of flick a switch and then suddenly play 3 games in 8 days at the very top level has proved too much. And even for those guys, like Bale and Ramsey. So from what we gather, Bale wants to carry on. They've got a fairly friendly looking Euro 2024 qualifying group, that will be important for them if he does carry on, because the worry is, as you alluded to there's perhaps not a huge amount coming through. They're quite excited about Brennan Johnson to see what he can do, and Dan James perhaps sort of shown in flashes what he's capable of, but certainly nobody of that sort of caliber of Bale and Ramsey and to a lesser extent Joe Allen. So yeah, I think that they might carry on, but maybe, as I say, Wales will just have to find a way to not be so reliant on them and maybe use them a little bit more sparingly, use them off the bench to try and make an impact, that sort of thing. So Wales certainly, I've covered them for 11 years now, and if Bale was to go and Ramsey was to go, it wouldn't quite feel the same. It'd lose some of its sparkle without him.
And finally, Martin, if we can just get a score prediction for tonight's game from you.
Oh, now then, have we got any Welsh people in the studio? I'll go with a 3-1 England, I'm afraid, and the end of the road for Wales. But obviously, I hope I'm wrong. I'm hoping for a Wales 4-0 win. That'll put the cat amongst the pigeons, wouldn't it? So let's see. But looking forward to the game very much.
Thank you, Martin. Cheers for joining us. And I would say usually good luck for tonight, but...
Yeah, all right, guys. Enjoy it yourselves.
Yeah, enjoy your day. See you later.
Cheers. Thanks a lot. Bye.
So we were just joined there by Martin Blackburn. We're now joined by our pundits in the studio. There was a bit of controversy yesterday with the handball and the Portugal-Uruguay game. It's probably been the main talking point. What did we make of that?
Well, obviously we saw Portugal win a penalty. Jose Jimenez, he was falling back. He lands on the ball with his hand. You see it clearly, he knocks his fingers back. So there's no disputing that it has hit his hand. And from a Portugal perspective, you can think if Jimenez's hand isn't there, then the Portugal through. Then it's a pretty simple goal. But of course, the rules are the rules, and I'm not too sure he can stop that because it's just he's falling. He's trying to support himself as he goes down. So the handball debate's been one that's caused much discussion over the years for every football fan. The rules are still changing. People are still unclear on the rules. On the world stage, you're going to get these decisions that spark debates, and I'm not really sure there's a correct answer to it, but we all have our opinions. And for me, I think it is harsh, but the rules are the rules.
You all agree that it was pretty harsh?
Yeah, it was basically just what he said. The rules are the rules. It's unfortunate for Jimenez, but it did happen. So
yeah, exactly. Like the problem is, I maybe think that if there wasn't a clear opportunity that if his hand wasn't there, he might have not whistled the penalty. But because after this, Bruno could have shot and possibly score a goal, so it was like, oh, okay, that's a clear stoppage of the action. So yeah, rules are rules, but I think it's a fair penalty.
Yeah, well, obviously the handball rule is whether it's making your body unnaturally bigger or it's out of the silhouette of your body, or your hand is in an unnatural position. I think we can all agree there that it probably was in a natural position. He was supporting himself as he was going down to ground. But there's also a bit of controversy yesterday in the earlier game. And Jerry, you are of Cameroonian descent, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
And there was a bit of sting there as Cameroon decided to drop Andre Onana out of the squad for refusing to play traditionally. So there seems to be a bit of a standoff between Onana and the manager, Rigobert Song. Do you think they made the right decision to drop Onana if he was disagreeing with the manager, or do you think you have to stick by your best player?
I think, as I said, we have to stick as best player because obviously before call out Onana in the team, he knows obviously how he was playing at Ajax or how he's playing at Inter. So say now, oh, you have to stop how you play. He's special, he's that good because that's how he play. And saying, no, you're not allowed to play anymore, play more traditional, that's maybe a little bit harsh, and that's not normal for a team, because when you've got the chance to have a goalkeeper, and especially, you know, for African teams, sometimes hard to find good goalkeepers, and when you got like one of the best European goalkeepers in the world right now, you cannot say, you cannot hold him to play more traditionally for it. So yeah, I think it's a bit harsh for Rigobert Song to have left him out of the team for this.
Would Cameroon have won the game if he was in goal yesterday?
That's a hard one. Obviously, I don't know this, but there is some school where Embassy, so the goalkeeper who played yesterday, he obviously like clear the ball further away as possible, and we know how good he is on the ball and with the ball in his feet. So maybe he wouldn't have thrown that ball. Hard to say, but in any case, the fact that he wasn't the best goalkeeper playing, he definitely did have an impact yesterday.
And of course, Jerry, I'm going to come back to you again here, moving on to the Brazil match. As a Swiss fan, what did you make? Because for a while it did seem like Switzerland were going to hold on and get a really good point in the end, and obviously a late goal from Casemiro ended that. But yeah, what did you make of the game yesterday?
So yeah, as a Swiss person, I think that's a game that everyone in Switzerland were expecting to see, obviously, with the injury of two of our major players like Noah Okafor, who played for Salzburg, and Xherdan Shaqiri. It was hard to fill the gap for Ruben Vargas and the new player Fabian Rueda, but obviously Switzerland tried, as they often do when they faced a big nation of football, to close all the gaps, be really solid defensively, and it almost did work. If it wasn't for that wonderful goal by Casemiro. But I think that what's missing a lot, especially when you don't have Okafor, when you don't have Shaqiri, is creativity coming from the wing, because we've seen that Vargas was not really dominant on his 1v1, and so did Fabian Rueda. So yeah, creativity, and as you said earlier at the beginning, they had like 0 shot on targets. Of course, Brazil is a good team, but I think the fact that he wasn't the best player, once again, who could bring that sparks in the final third of the pitch, did not help Switzerland to try to obtain something.
Yeah, and Adam, from Brazil's point of view, no shots on target conceded against Serbia, no shots on target conceded against Switzerland. This is only the second time it's happened in a World Cup in history for a team to not concede a shot on target in their first 2 games. The last one was in 1966. Are Brazil building a solid spine to try and win this tournament?
Yeah, definitely, because like the foundations of every winning successful side is a good defence. We've seen that over the years. Like teams can be so brilliant to watch going forward, but it's that defensive solidarity that not always stands out, but that you appreciate more. And when you can have that, those attacking players can feel like they have more freedom going forward, because if they have a defence that they can trust behind them, they're going to think, oh, we're not going to concede goals, the pressure's off us a bit to do our job, but they can go out there more relaxed and they can deliver, and that's what we've seen with Brazil. You could argue Brazil's full-backs are the weak points. You know, you've got an aging Danilo and Alexandro, full-back pairing for Juventus, formerly of Porto, both of them. But then obviously you've got Marquinhos in the middle, along with so many other good options in the heart of that backline. Thiago Silva, he's aging like a fine wine. And you've got even Arsenal's Gabriel didn't even make the squad, did he? That shows how good the depth is in that position. So also Casemiro in front of him, he's a fantastic defensive midfielder. taking the reins from Fernandinho, you could say. One of the Premier League's finest defensive midfielders. Thought I had to get it in there as a City fan. But yeah, Brazil looking fantastic, and Richarlison stepping up to the plate. Gabriel Jesus not quite getting that regular minutes as Brazil's next best number 9 after Ronaldo, as they were saying, but Richarlison's delivering. Casemiro stepping up yesterday. Neymar's obviously, if he's fit, perfect player for them going forward. Gabriel Martinelli, Antony, the list goes on of Brazil's players, and they are looking like serious contenders. I wonder how far they can go.
And of course, at the other end of the spectrum, Uruguay have now played 2 matches and have still not scored a goal. And of course, but they are still in with a chance of qualifying. But it's definitely going to be a fiery game, I'd say, against Ghana, given their history. And what are we looking forward to this one? What are we expecting?
Yeah, I think especially because we're all the 2010 World Cup was probably all of our first memories of a World Cup. Flashback, reminiscing on it in the build-up to the game is just amazing. Obviously, hopefully, Ghana can get one back at Uruguay this time. But I don't think it'd be surprising if they did, because Uruguay just haven't been at the level everyone thought they would be. I know a lot of people had them as the dark horses, and well, maybe not dark horses, because I mean the front line is Cavani, Suarez, and Nunes. So everyone was expecting goals, and the fact that they've not scored one yet is quite astonishing to everyone. And Ghana obviously showed that they can score. They showed yesterday, very much so. But I think that will give Ghana the much needed boost, if they needed it anyway, trying to get revenge on Uruguay.
Yeah, when the draw was made, Uruguay v Ghana was kind of seen as going to be one of the biggest games in the group stage, and it's almost like a knockout game, because if Ghana win, they're through. If Uruguay win, they give themselves a really good chance of getting through. So, how do we see this game going?
Obviously, I would say with the current form, Ghana are probably ahead of it, and as with all those double nationalities that they bring in, like Iñaki Williams, Salisu, and Tariq Lamptey that we know, they make a really good team and a recurrent team. They're not afraid to go forward, to score more goals than the opposition. And as we said, Uruguay did really struggle to score goals in this competition so far. So I would say I give a chance to Ghana. They will get a revenge of 2010.
And of course, Portugal resting players, having already qualified, gives South Korea a chance of getting through as well if the result goes the way in the other match. So what are we expecting there?
Well, I'm not too sure, to be honest. I think Portugal are a very strong side. They've shown that in the first 2 games. And Korea, they've not shown too much, if I'm honest. I mean, Kim Min-jae at the back has been solid. Heung-min Son, obviously, we know what he can do. But I can't see South Korea winning there. Even though in 2018 they beat Germany in the final group game, in that famous game, 2 last-minute goals, I just can't see Korea winning that. So I'm not sure Korea will go through. I think it all rides on this Uruguay-Ghana game, and that will be blockbuster to say the least.
So, no more 10 a.m. kickoffs, which helps our podcast at this time in the morning and also gives us all a lie-in. We're just a few hours from the next matches kicking off. So we've got Netherlands and Qatar who are playing at 3 p.m, Ecuador versus Senegal who are playing at 3, and then, of course, the Iran versus USA and the Wales versus England game. Moving on to the England-Wales game, how do we see that going? Is there a chance of Wales beating England by 4 goals, or are England going to breeze through this? Or are they going to draw and Iran going to sneak through and win the group?
Well, just going off what Alex asked Martin before about Rob Page's, the criticism he's received, I think one of the reasons that Wales won't win 4-0, I mean, you never know, they might do, but it's very unlikely, is purely just because of Southgate's pragmatic approach. He will not let his side go out and lose 4-0. I don't think he'll settle for the draw. I think he will go for the win, but we know that Southgate values defence and defensive-minded players over attacking-minded players, and if he knows that England can make it through, whether it's first or second, by not conceding 4 goals, I don't see any reason why he won't set up to not allow that to happen. Because it's like the argument with Mount, Foden, Grealish. Mount is arguably the lesser talented player, but because he traditionally works harder and he's got a bit more athleticism about him, he starts more because he offers more going back than going forward.
And
sorry to interrupt. Yeah, you could also argue that we did lose 4-0 to Hungary in the summer. So you never know. I don't know how Wales are in comparison with Hungary, especially from what we've seen in this tournament so far. Wales do have some good attacking players though, you know, Brennan Johnson, Dan James, they're not quite delivering yet, but Harry Wilson creatively, if they want to, they could switch from a 3 centre-backs to a back 4 and go a bit more attacking. And I think England will be prepared for that though, like Dan says, and I personally don't think it'll happen. And I think England, I don't think it'll be an entertaining watch, I'll be honest. I think England is going to prioritise just getting over the line, whatever Wales throw at us. But yeah, I think we'll see a few changes in the team and it'll just be a solid result. I'll go for a draw.
It is a good point though, because Wales now have nothing to play for. So they can just go all out. If they lose 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, it doesn't make a difference. But if they just focus on trying to get the goals they need, you know, because like you said, they do have good attackers. They've not used Kiefer Moore to the extent they should have done. So whether he might start, we don't know. But it is a good point because they have nothing to fear. And England, as much like I said, as I don't think they will concede 4, they will be wary that trying to get the win and trying to top the group may leave them light at the back.
I think actually it might be a good thing for England that they have to score 4 goals, because as we said earlier, South is really pragmatic in that sense. If Wales need to score 4 goals, they will be full forwards, leaving space in the back for players, if it's Foden, Sterling, Saka, for them to attack those pace. So maybe it might be a good thing actually. The game might actually be more exciting than what we thought it would be.
Does he chop and change as well? Does he make a few changes? Because obviously it looks like England are going to be into the last 16 and hopefully beyond that. Does he rest a couple?
Maybe. I think, in my opinion, I think the one that we might drop for this game will be Mason Mount, because as we say, there is a lot of debate either if Mount or Foden should start. So in my opinion, the one who might be rest a little bit will be Mason Mount, to see what's Foden look like in this team.
See, in my opinion, unless he changes formation and style, I don't think Mount will be dropped, just because despite all the criticism he's got for not putting Foden on in the traditionally number 10 role, he's still come out and said yesterday that it's unrealistic to play Foden in that role. So I think, in my opinion, it'll be Jack Grealish and Foden who come in for Saka and Sterling, and then I also think Trent will replace Trippier. Whether that's his only start of the tournament is yet to see, but I think those are the 3 changes that will be made.
Yeah, I could see that too. I'd like to see Callum Wilson get a start. We're not sure about Harry Kane's fitness, but Callum Wilson's been fantastic for Newcastle. He's got, I don't know, I think I heard earlier in the tournament when the squads were picked, having Wilson and Trippier in there from an informed Newcastle, they bring, I'm not sure if it's exactly what they bring, but with that form they're at Newcastle, that feel-good factor they've got going there, I think they're gonna bring that to the camp, and I think it's really useful to have. So I think Wilson would be a good addition to that starting 11, and potentially if fit, James Maddison I'd love to see give a go, but I'm not sure if he'll be match fit yet.
And finally, as well, of course, just a brief word on Ecuador-Senegal kicking off at 3, which, given the fact that it's likely England will top their group, that almost certainly will decide who they play in the round of 16. Who are we expecting? Who would we prefer to get, do we think, in the next round?
I would like to say I would prefer Ecuador, but I also think they're a better side than Senegal. If anyone listened to the podcast a couple of weeks ago, I actually said that my hot take was Ecuador would go through instead of Senegal, just because obviously Koulibaly's out of form, Mendy's out of form, Mane's just out. So 3 of the biggest players are not there, or they're struggling at the moment. And Ecuador, they are a decent side. I think no one expected them to be anything more, but they have impressed, especially going forward so far. And Valencia, who'd have thought he'd be leading it with Mbappe so far with 3 goals. But yeah, I think Ecuador will do enough to get over the line, and I think that's who we'll be facing if we top the group.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed watching Ecuador this tournament. I was not expecting much from them. I'll be honest, I thought Netherlands and Senegal would get through pretty convincingly, but they held their own against Netherlands, and you wouldn't expect Netherlands to go through. Now they're playing Qatar. But Ecuador have been just fantastic to watch. I really enjoyed it, and this is their game, this is their decider, so they'll naturally try harder. Valencia's obviously got the goals so far, but the rest of the team is very good. You got Caicedo from Brighton, here the Bayer Leverkusen defender Hincapie, and they've got a really good team, and I think they could get through this one.
Well, we shall see what happens, but that's it for today. Thank you to our special guest Martin Blackburn for covering Wales and Qatar.
Thanks also to our students Adam, Dan and Jerry. This podcast was produced and presented by sports journalism students at the University of Central Lancashire in Preston. If you liked it, you can follow us on Spotify and share it with your friends. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back tomorrow going through all the action in today's matches.